Hey there, my name is Tom. Welcome to this beautiful Thursday. We have inflation data out for December, 6.5% year over year, 0.1% negative month over month, right on the expectations. The good news is that inflation is easing off for sure. The bad news that a lot of it is already priced in because it's right on the expectations. So it doesn't seem like a big rally is coming, but although who knows at this point. So what does this actually mean? Well, the first thing I want to mention is the dissection of this thing. If you actually look deeper into it, it basically is driven by the energy prices. A little bit the Fed, but mainly energy prices, 4.5% down on energy. That's a lot. That pushes inflation down again and again, month after month. Other indices are a little bit more problematic. For example, food is up 0.3%. So we're dependent on energy prices remaining low. As I mentioned this before, inflation in the US is obviously dependent on the monetary policy for sure, but mainly, we really need energy prices to stay low. And as long as that happens, we should be fine. Now, for the past 6 months, we've been pretty much flat on inflation. We started with 9.1, and basically you've seen what happened. We're down to 6.5% in about 7 months. And at this point, I want to bring up Michael Burry. He actually tweeted and said, hey, be careful of complacency. So what he's referring to, basically, he's saying that by the second half of this year, we're going to have negative inflation, and that's going to cause the Fed to ease off and actually start stimulating. Now, look, he's not completely off, historically speaking, of course, because that already happened in the 70s. In 1974, we had 12.5% inflation. The Fed stepped in, raised interest all the way to 12%. Within 3 years, we were down to 5% inflation. Beautiful. But then the Fed reduces rates from 12% to all the way to 5%. And then within the next 3 years, to 1977, we go back up to another 15%. So inflation not only came back, it came back worse than before. Exactly what Michael Burry is warning about. Paul Volcker steps in and he has to raise interest rates not to 12% to 20% now to deal with this. Now, this is just to show that what Michael Burry is saying already happened in the past. If you're complacent about it, if you basically say, hey, we're good at about 5% where you think it's over, no, it's going to come back and bite you in the butt way harder than before. So be careful. Go in the history books and study what I'm saying. That literally happened. So Michael Burry may be wrong here, but he's not completely taking, blowing smoke up your bum or anything like that. He's actually very serious about this. Very, very, very important to stay on track, to stay hawkish until we get to 2% inflation, not giving up at 5 or 4. Now, look, obviously, this means a lot for the real estate market. The real estate market is aching in ways that can't imagine. I mean, the private REIT sector is going through massive redemptions, 1,000% more redemptions in the past 9 months than the year before. We went by 1,000% more redemptions. Blackstone's hitting redemption caps, Starwood. So the entire sector is aching. We have 35% less existing home sales this year than previous years, just 7% less in November than October. So it's still a lot of pain ahead. Now, I want to tell you something about what this means for the stock market, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. So 6.5%, good or bad for the stock market? Well, look, the problem is that I think that this 6.5% in the policy of the Fed, which is basically remaining very, very hawkish, is leading us to an inevitable recession. And I'm going to actually show you numbers to prove that. Look, the problem is that at this point, you might say, well, look, Tom, inflation is flat, right? And unemployment is at 3.7%. It's very, very low. So the job market is strong. Inflation is getting flat. There's not going to be any recession. But let me tell you something. If you look under the hood, you see that there's absolutely no way that this is correct. And I'll explain why. Look, you have to look at 2 data points. The first data point is called the personal savings rate. It's how much Americans are saving out of their income, how much money goes into the savings account and how much they're spending. Basically, when they're done paying for everything, for leisure, for taxes, for everything. Now, just in March 2022, the personal savings rate was 26%, which means that Americans saved 26% of their income because they had nothing to spend it on. That was in March. According to the latest data which we have, which is November, which is 8 months later, we still don't have December data. But just 8 months later, that rate has dropped to 2.4%, from 26 to 2.4. I mean, that's as fast as my grandpa drops after a New Year's Eve party in Novogod. You know what I mean? So 26 to 2.4 within 8 months. That means that the savings of Americans have been evaporated. In 8 months, Americans have ate through all their savings. It's gone. 2.4%. It's the lowest we had since, I want to say, November 2007. And you know what happened to 2008, right? So we're now basically, we tapped out. The savings are gone. So in the past 8 months, we basically ate through our savings. And that's the problem. That unemployment market at 3.7% is being held by consumption. People are still buying a lot of stuff. And that's what keeps the the unemployment market basically low, because people are still spending. But the problem is that now people are spending money that is coming out of their savings, as I just showed you. And go check me on this. So at this point, the savings are out. Now, the next thing that people do when they tap out of savings, they go to debt. That's the next thing. And actually looking at the debt data for the U.S., you would see some really alarming numbers. If you add up the mortgage debt, the credit card debt, the car loans, and the student loans, the U.S. is currently at $16.5 trillion of debt. That is the highest in history. That's besides the point. But get this. From 2008 to 2019, in 11 years, we went from 12.5 to about 13.5. So we increased by 1 trillion in 11 years before 2019. From 2019 until right now, until Q3 2022, in fact, we don't have the latest data. So from 2019 to Q3 2022, we increased from about 14.5% to 16.5%. So we have raised the US debt right now by double than what we did in the entire decade before in just 2.5 years. Imagine that. So we're accumulating more debt than ever, faster than ever, while the Fed is increasing rates right now at the fastest pace in history, except Paul Volcker. Faster than 88, faster than 94, faster than 99, faster than 2004, faster than 2015, obviously. 4.25%. Actually, if you look at what Paul Volcker did, Paul Volcker raised 9% in 2 years, and that's literally 4.5% per year. Jerome Powell just did 4.25 a year, very close to Paul Volcker days. So rates are going up as fast as we've seen since Volcker and very close to Volcker. People are in debt more than ever. Real estate market is coming down. Personal savings rates have been evaporated. There's no savings. People are in debt. Real estate market is crashing. And that basically means that the unemployment market, which is the last stronghold, is about to pop. And when it pops, all the screws come loose. Everything comes out and it seems like a cheap cushion. And when that happens, it's going to be very ugly. So even though I'm very happy for 6.5% inflation, we still have another 6 months of these rates, which means that this thing is not going to hold up that much. And I'm very optimistic with 6 months, probably 6 months to a year. So at this point, I'm very bearish as far as where this economy is going. We're heading into recession, but I am happy to see that progress is being made in the right direction. But I just want to make sure you understand this. Not all of this is dependent on the Fed. The Fed can raise interest until the cows come home. It doesn't matter. If energy prices spike again, we're pretty much screwed. So it's good, and the Fed is contributing, but it's mainly energy prices, and we have to keep those low if we want to have a shot at bringing this home somehow without evaporating our entire economy. Thank you for watching. As always, if you want to sign up for my platform, Stock MVP, it's at stock-mvp.com. There's a 25% off. I'm going to put the coupon code in the description right now. You can go get it right now. Test it out for 14 days. If you don't like it, I'm going to refund you 100%. No questions asked. See you next video.